Oh, I'm going to start today. Well, welcome to the Record Straight podcast. I am Christina.
And I am Anthony.
And we're from Cartel Australia.
I think that was a lot more smooth than ones we've done in the past. The last two were terrible. You've got to take it from now on.
No, I think I was just channeling Benny's energy, for the previous ones.
Yeah.
I was channeling it. It's all good. No, but this is welcome. This one is going to be a little bit more discussional, I think, than the previous one. I think it's very much one that might ruffle a bit of feathers maybe, or not be as popular. Some opinions might not be as popular, and there might be some very popular opinions for artists who have worked with labels in the past.
Yeah.
So this one is going to be about the priority of the artist versus the priority of a label.
Or industry in general.
Industry in general. Sorry. Not just a label. Let's take that again. The priority of an artist versus the priority of industry. And I guess we'll work through the industry label manager agent. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, at the very core.
And the artist will be independent and developing, looking to be signed to those people or already signed with those industry. Very, very fun. So take us through what the priority of an artist should be.
I think this is a really, like when we spoke about what we wanted to get out of today's podcast session was very much around, the conversation started off the back of conversations with artists, as they often do, and their reliance or their thought process around what industry support is actually going to do for their career moving forward. And in a lot of cases, and almost all cases really at the right level, industry will benefit an artist at some point.
Totally.
That's why we do what we do.
Totally. Industry is valuable. You just got to pick your industry at the right time.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be really important to all the listeners to be able to understand the priorities at an artist level versus the priorities at an industry level, because they are different.
And they have to be.
So coming from an artist standpoint, for someone who was an ex-artist and now operates within the industry realm, the priority of an artist in the context of creating a sustainable career, not for the hobbyist.
Yeah, this convo is not for you hobbyists.
Absolutely. This convo is for people that want to create sustainability from their project. Their priority is to be able to develop repeat listenership, to then translate that listenership into other areas of the project, mainly relying on their strengths and weaknesses. So for an artist that is very heavily into playing live shows and touring, to be able to leverage that demand or that repeat listenership into ticket sales, into merch sales. For an artist looking to develop on a little bit more of a production or a songwriting or whatever it may be, developing repeat listenership will help you become more desirable to industry, to help get you more of those opportunities to help develop a sustainable career.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, those priorities are our core priorities in terms of creating sustainability.
Yeah.
It is not, we are just releasing music for the sake of it.
And it really has nothing to do with the creative process as much. Even for artists, like the career artists that we're talking to, their priority is obviously making the best music that they can.
Absolutely.
But we're talking in the context of sustainability.
100%.
And career longevity.
100%.
And I think, that's something to say and to kind of summarize. You're developing repeat listenership, developing core audiences, being able to use your strengths to focus your attention and grow for career project to then make money, to stay financially sustainable.
Over a catalogue, over a longer period of time.
Correct.
Yes, correct. So that's the priority. So why don't you take us through the industry priority? Okay. Or we can go back and forth on
we
this,
can go back and forth. So let's start with a label priority, because I know a lot of artists, independent artists, and we love labels. We work with labels all the time. So this is not...
We're a label service agency.
We're a label service agency. So this is not at all like condemning or saying that labels are one particular way, nor do every person that works in a label have this mindset. But I think that it's also important to note that a label and a manager and an agency, if they're all in business, have business priorities. Generally, a successful business makes money. So, and particularly for a label, making money on the money that they've spent. So their priority, where it differs immediately from an artist priority, is to recoup on the money that they've spent as soon as possible.
Yeah. So for a label specifically, their expenditure on an artist can come anywhere from studio hire, mixing, mastering processes, graphic design, promotional materials, feature vocalist, digital and social strategy,
music videos, which is kind of irrelevant.
yada, 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 yada. So there are costs that are incurred sometimes at a major level. An advance will be offered to an artist, and that advance is a prepayment, or it could be paid out within the lifetime of delivering a certain amount of music or whatever it may be.
But there's always a portion, if not all of that needs to be recouped.
Right.
So it needs to be paid back before the artist starts making money.
Exactly right. So the way that majority of labels make money on artists, let's keep it to independent labels because that's the demographic that we're speaking to.
Yeah. Which generally don't deal with advances anyway.
Which don't really deal with advances. The majority, and they don't also offer out 360 deals where, they're managing
in charge of the booking
and releasing their music as well. They're
Yep.
just handling the release side. The way that they make or they recoup is through streaming royalties, so distribution and mechanical royalties.
Yep.
Right. So right there we can see a really clear split in the priority of an artist and a priority of a label. The priority of the label at the end of the day in terms of business is to be able to recoup on royalties.
And I think that, again, it's going to depend on the deal, but initially they're a business and they want to make their money back, and then they want to make money on you. Generally, if you've got 1 to 2 deals, like a 1 to 2 track deal with a label, they are not focused on your long-term goal setting. Those 2 releases need to do as well as they can, and then you move on and they move on. Artists get really in their head about that and they don't understand it because they go, I'm signed to a label now. They're going to help me with everything.
They're going to do everything.
They're going to do everything.
Yeah.
They are not going to create your content. They're not going to audience outreach. They are not going to, generally speaking, not going to help you long-term develop a narrative. They're going to help you develop the narrative with the songs or the releases or the catalog that they are signed to.
The scope within which they work. I think it's also relevant to say that, particularly in this market right now, we're not even seeing artists get signed until they've already got that built-in audience and that built-in listenership and whatever already.
And that's the shift in the music landscape.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why, and I mean, again, sorry to any labels, managers, agents that are listening. A lot of the time we tell independent developing artists specifically, you don't need those resources, those structures until you're ready. Like we tell them, don't go and look for a label if you've got 4 releases out and you've got just starting your narrative in your catalog. You haven't even gotten a full body workout yet. You're not in charge of the processes yourself. So why would you expect someone else to be in charge 100%. Of them? And I think that now this conversation is really important because of the shift in the landscape and artists being able to do things themselves, there's still those few, majority really, that want that extra additional support.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very clear that it's very important that this conversation happens, and it's very clear to artists that, okay, whilst it's all well and good that they are going to help you with some things, they're probably not going to help you with all of the things that you're after.
Yeah.
So the label priorities. Again, the other 2, the managers and the agents.
Yeah, I think so. Managers, obviously, we've spoken about at length in most other podcasts that we've kind of done, and booking agents are responsible for the live side, which we've also covered in previous episodes. If you want to go check them out, I think generally the way that they work financially is they work on a percentage basis based on the deal. So for a manager, it's anywhere between 15 and 25% of an artist's earnings within Australia. Again, depending on what the deal is.
Yeah, could be.
I think booking agents, in my experience, are relatively the same.
Just say anywhere between 15 and 25. That's
absolutely. Safe. Now, to be very clear, you don't these guys are absolutely relevant to an act. A manager is relevant to an act when there is something to manage. A booking agency is relevant to an act when there is demand for them to tour.
Yes, correct.
If you are an artist that just wants a booking agent to put their email in your Instagram bio,
or just wants a manager to help with the admin,
and you don't have any audience demand, there is absolutely zero incentive for them to sign you.
Correct.
For example, we operated previously as a management agency when we first started Cartel in 2015.
Yeah.
We obviously don't do that anymore. Opting to go down more a service route for development.
And also because our priorities were to create a financially sustainable business. I think that was our priority. If we don't make money, we
don't eat, do we?
Correct. So, and not that we didn't want to help artists, but we had to rejig the way that we thought about it because our priorities were help the artist, but also put food on the table.
Absolutely.
And be able to buy a house and
pay
develop.
The mortgage. Yeah.
So I think that
adult life hit us real quick.
I think it can be spoken to for label services as well.
Yeah.
That the priority and why the management didn't work, and you can continue the story. Sorry, it was just that we're a business at the end of the day and we have to make money. So we needed to prioritize the services or the ways in which that was going to happen. And that didn't involve management.
And that doesn't make, and that again, and we keep going back to this point, that doesn't make our service or any other label service or artist service company like not valuable, because there's still, we still solve problems for artists every day. We still provide support and resources every day.
Totally. As do labels, as do agents, as do managers.
Absolutely. It just comes down to the fact that our priority, I know my priority personally, is to make sure that we have, we are able to live, because otherwise if we weren't, we wouldn't be able to run the business.
And it's twofold.
Yeah.
It is that we want to create value, but we also want to create financial stability. And if we didn't, then we would be a terrible business.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to help anyone.
Going back to the point of what I was saying before, in terms of financially what managers and booking agents earn, if you're an act that doesn't already have that demand, which is why that demand should be an artist priority to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have that demand, there is absolutely zero incentive for a company like ours or a company like a management company, an agency, whatever it may be, to go, okay, we're going to work with this artist to develop this artist because I've got to focus on acts and a roster that makes them money.
Totally.
Also that they believe in, also that they want to work with creatively.
And that they think that they
like
can help.
Working with. Yeah. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, if we're going to be honest and we're going to be truthful and we're going to cut through all the shit, right?
We're going to set the record straight.
We're going to set the record straight. Industry want to make money. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And
so stop thinking, sorry to cut you off.
No.
I get very passionate about this. Stop thinking that you're going to sign to a label, that you're going to sign to a management agency, that you're going to sign to a booking agent, and all you need to worry about is making music.
And you can step off the hands off the wheel.
Because if you do, you're fucking 10 years behind.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's an old school. You got really passionate. It's an old school thought. And I think that it's a really nice way to quickly lean into like working with artists as industry professionals and kind of what an artist should be focused on, and also
100%.
what makes them valuable to get to industry support points.
Yeah.
I think that, and you mentioned it, like having the desire and the ability and the consistency to create and communicate on all different aspects of the project.
Yeah.
For a manager, the way that a manager will want to sign you is if you're already, if it's worth signing. If the 15 and 25% is going to put something in their pocket and they can actually help you develop.
It's going to be worth their time. It's going to be incentive.
It's going to be worth their resources. Yeah. Totally. And I think that if you're not doing that and you're searching for someone to help you do that, it's the wrong mindset to have. If you're consistent and you go, I'm going to create this catalog, I have a plan of development, I'm going to put all of my effort into the communication as well as the creative and build my social profile and build my audience outreach and build my community, then a manager has something to manage.
Absolutely.
A booking agent has something to sell. A label will want to help you develop because it's a very clear process forward.
They build upon the processes that you create internally.
Totally.
Yeah. They benefit what you're already doing. They are not the answer.
Yes. So if you're an artist that wants a manager because they will do the admin for you. They will, or you want a manager so you can take a step back and focus on the music. If you aren't the artist who is actively building community, networking, actively seeking opportunities yourself for live shows, actively creating your content and engaging with an audience likely to care, building a whole knowledge base, which is, I mean, you can go on our website. We have, well, you've written most of them, but we have huge amount of resources. I think there's about 70 articles or something like that across a 5-year period or a 6-year period of resources that artists can take and implement and build towards. So then they are actually desirable for an industry person to put their money into, to put their time and resources into, to then for everyone to make money, for everyone to develop, for everyone to move forward.
I was speaking to a very a high profile manager a couple of days ago, a really great friend of ours, and he basically said, you know, for a lot of artists, the phone's just not going to ring.
No.
And I thought that was a really powerful comment that he said, the phone's just not going to ring.
Just because you want it to.
Just because you want it to.
Yeah.
You've got to pick it up and call. And, you know, the other thing that what started that conversation was the conversation around like 15 to 25% of nothing is a shit business plan.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So that's kind of the priorities for a lot of artists out there thinking that, you know, industry is the answer. The reality is that they are a solution, but they are not the whole answer. They have areas of expertise that will be able to assist you when you reach a certain level.
Mm-hmm. But you got to reach that level.
And that level is different for everyone.
Totally.
But demand is everything. And we've said it in previous podcast episodes that what separates the great from the mediocre is the ability for an artist to be able to create a balance between the creative processes, the write, demo, record, produce, mix, master.
All the fun stuff that artists love.
Yep. And the communication process, the communications umbrella of social, digital, live, in person, and digital.
Yep.
And how
all with the basis of audience connection.
Yeah.
Building a community.
And how we develop that community, right? And how we develop that demand, that's what's sellable.
Yep.
To industry.
Yep.
And we'll be able to allow them to be as effective as they can be for you.
And all of those touch points have different processes depending on the artist.
Which we've gone through.
In multiple. I think that it's just, again, about pulling up your bootstraps, putting on a big boy pants, putting on a hard girl hat, and literally going through the knocks and the hard work and building and breaking down barriers that are in your way, making connections, building audiences, networking, doing all the stuff that artists generally don't enjoy doing. And if you do, you'll be really good at it, and that's wonderful. Doing all of that to get to the point where you're like, I need help now.
Yeah.
I need to be signed because I need this. It's going to benefit the project. And at that point, we almost guarantee there will be someone there to go to see it and go, okay, I need that. Yeah. And I think that, again, going back to previous episodes, building that connection point and being really aware of who you want to help you from the very beginning and creating that 12, 24-month relationship with them and showcasing your development is a very important touch point for artists that they generally don't do.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think that's kind of been made well and abundantly clear in terms of splitting those priorities. I think where we want to kind of spend the next 10 or so minutes and really kind of open up the discussion around is looking from an industry perspective.
Yeah.
Around, you know,
what makes a desirable artist?
What makes a desirable artist, but also kind of leaning on working with artists and what that entails most of the time. You know, I think, you know, for us in particular, again, I feel uniquely qualified to speak about this because I've been on both sides of it, you know, as an artist and as an industry person. You know, I think at the end of the day, in the context of creating a project and a sustainable artist project, professionalism is such a massive factor.
Yeah.
Such a massive factor. Going through the right communication channels, if you're making a plan, sticking to it, like it's all the easy stuff that everybody already knows about.
But it's worth mentioning because it
doesn't happen.
It doesn't. We are very small in this industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Like compared to the
minute,
majors, we are a small agency. And if we're experiencing this, we can only imagine what the bigger agencies are experiencing. But I think, it's about decency. It's about, like you said, going through the right platforms and not expecting, leaving your ego at the door, not expecting work for nothing, or not expecting things to just appear for you without any, work that you're putting in.
Also understanding, the incentive of the people that you want to be working with.
Correct. And their role and what they're actually good at. I think it's a relationship. I think, and this is the biggest thing, particularly coming off from a management perspective, we are working as industry professionals. We are all working with artists. We are not working for artists.
Boom.
Done. Because I just think, and it's such a simple thing, but artists sometimes don't, they get caught up, they get swept, and then it becomes all about them and their project and their music and whatever, which it should, and it's wonderful. But at the end of the day, there's give and take. There's strengths and weaknesses on both sides. There's strengths of your manager, agent, label, representative. There's weaknesses of those people as well, and identifying them and getting to know the people that you're actually working with. Just like agents, labels, managers gets to know the artist, you identify those strengths and weaknesses. You identify where both parties need to grow.
I don't even think it's that, like, it's not just the people that are working close within the project. It's also who you're outsourcing to.
Totally.
Label
services agencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mix and mastering engineers, photographers, videographers, content creators, publicists, all of it, right? Do not haggle.
Oh yeah. That's a big one. I
think, and I'll use us as an example, and it, understanding that, again, artists only have access to a limited amount of funds, resources aren't available for everybody. Not everyone has a sustainable project. We understand it. I was that artist in that position. Again, I feel uniquely qualified to say it. A price is a price based on the time that I'll use us as an example. All of our prices are based on the time that we spend working on whatever we're working on.
Yeah.
We do not make that price like that, the decision on that price lightly. We make the decision on that, normally the decision around cost, particularly for us, I'm sure it's the same for every other person as, freelancer or agency or whatever it is. The conversation around cost internally, I know, is a massive discussion point for us because we want to be accessible, but we also want to make sure that we're not doing, anything too like at a low cost and then having to do 55 billion things and not doing anything well.
Yeah. Because our priorities are being a business, running a business, creating financial stability,
but also
creating value for the artist.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at an artist level, I need you guys to really, really, really understand. Do not haggle
with anybody. And
it's
I think
disrespectful.
And I think it is. And I think that if you are at a point where you're like, well, I don't want to pay for that, or I don't want to, fine.
Don't.
That's okay. And it's fine. There are resources. Now, we live in an incredible landscape of music where there are resources to be able to do it yourself. Like we basically, the last label plan that we've given or whatever in
the last episode,
we essentially made yourself a publicist. Like you're your own publicist.
And a label.
And your own label. We've taken away the need for those things for free. And then once you get to the point where you can pay or you want to pay or you need that additional support, that's when you pay the price of that is being charged for a reason.
Let's break it down as well. Like, you take things like PR, for example, right? We've had however many episodes we've done now, and I reckon half of them have been, we've lent on at some point that local and developing artists don't need PR for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
Right? So don't spend that money, right? Upskill yourself to be able to develop that over a longer period of time.
Agreed.
So that when you do have that money through the project to be able to invest or to be able to outsource to that PR company or to that label service company or to that marketing person or whoever it may be, you can then keep those people that you're working with accountable because you actually know the process.
Yeah.
And that is way more powerful than just handballing something off.
1,000,000%.
You know, and again, that's coming from my artist experience, not from being, you know, because I mean, from our perspective, you know, if you want to work with us. That's great.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, working with an artist who actually understands the assignment and actually understands the process, they're way more beneficial to work with, but they're also ones that have the mindset of upskilling. And I think that's really important.
And they're usually the artists who you can tell immediately are going to grow in some way.
100%.
Like if we're speaking on an industry perspective, I think that, you know, there are certain artists and, you know, even the ones that we work with now, there are ones that we know are kind of like, okay, they are go-getters. Like they will do this with or without us, and we are creating an additional support, which is exactly what they want. They don't want us. They want us to solve the problem of being support and being a backboard.
Yeah.
Which is one of the services that we offer. But there are artists who then are like, I want you to do this. And it's kind of like, yeah, well, what have you done? Nothing. Okay. Well,
see you in 6 weeks.
Yeah. I guess it showcases the mindset and the artist with the mindset of I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make this journey through my music career
as frugally as possible.
Whatever, yeah, as it could be. Some do have the money to spend, but I think that in whatever case that it is, the artists who are like, I'm doing this is my plan, this is my thing, this is my whatever, they're the ones who are going to create sustainability.
It's a landscape thing, right? You know, you look at the early 2000s, the 2010s, early and late 2010s, you know, industry were more needed then because the access to entry was through
tiny.
them.
It was tiny.
And the access to the resources, they weren't available unless you had an expert that was working with you to be able to develop there. And the resources are out there for free and available to you now.
It's a totally different time.
Being not able, like saying that they're not available and not implementing them over a longer period is either laziness or ego. Yeah. It just is.
Well, yeah, and particularly because it is, or it's leaning on the past.
100%.
And like it's not just about now, like all of that support, all of that resource, all of that, the industry that artists generally want, they're not looking so much. I mean, they are. There is a point where it is about the music. There is a point. Back in Elvis's day, it was all about the talent. It was all about the music and then what they could do with that.
But again, the point of entry was so small.
So small.
Yeah.
It took a matter of being in the right place, right time,
right conversation.
Right person with the right sound. Music was amazing, being able to sell it.
Yeah.
Right?
Any man and his dog could be an artist these days.
Nowadays, industry is actually looking at the following and the influence and the audience base before even the conversation of music comes about, because there is so much, I mean, not always, but that is where it kind of is stemming from. And that is a huge shift and something that's going to make a lot of artists angry, us pinpointing. It is about the music, but it is also about now how you're doing all of the additional communication yourself, all of the audience building yourself, all of the narrative driven stuff yourself.
And again,
and live.
To go back again and just, you know, make sure that we're appealing to the right people. This is in the context of creating a sustainable career.
Correct.
If you are a hobbyist and just someone that wants to create music and make music, do whatever you want with it.
We also are not totally. We're also not saying that this is the right or wrong way that the industry is. We don't control the landscape. We are just working within the shifts and the development and the rises of socials and all of those things.
We flow with the landscape.
We flow with, because you have to, because that's how our business is growing, and that's how all businesses grow, and all artist projects grow.
Yeah.
And I think that we are not condoning that it's that the music side and the communication side is now a bit more equal. We're also not condoning it, but it is a fact of our landscape that the music side is very important. The creative side is very important. The way you look, the content, the prettiness of your socials, it's all important.
But the barrier to entry is a lot wider now.
Totally. And it's all stuff that you can do yourself.
Yeah.
And then that
totally
as a holistic project is what is going to appeal to audiences. Sorry, audiences, yes, but industry.
Yeah.
Managers, agents, labels for if you want that support. Once you get to that point, some of the time artists don't even need it. Some of the time they go, actually, you know what, I'm doing this on my own.
I think it's also important to say, because I think that a lot of the artists that are listening to this would be thinking that we're on a witch hunt trying to kill everyone, kill all artists.
Everyone always says, it's like, who hurt you?
It's really important to understand that without artists, we wouldn't have a job. So like, it's really important to understand that your creative and your project is the reason we do what we do.
Totally.
And we start from a point of being a fan. But in the context of creating sustainability as a project, the scope needs to widen.
Totally.
Around priorities, around intention, around, all of the stuff that we've covered in multiple episodes.
Yeah.
But it is important to note that, without an artist project and without the music, you have nothing. That's the starting point.
And neither do we.
And
neither do a lot of businesses.
And we
don't have music to enjoy, to want to promote, to want to go and see, to want to go and sell.
But in the context of creating a sustainable project, again, like I said before, the scope needs to be widened to generating demand.
Totally.
To generating professionalism.
It's just a mindset shift.
A mindset shift to how do we turn creative into commerce?
Yeah.
And that's going to be a consistent thing that, I said it in a couple of episodes ago, for a lot of artists it can feel quite icky and quite, tedious and scientific, to take something that is a hobby and turn it into something that is essentially profit, but from an industry standpoint, there's no point working with an industry person if you haven't got the budget or the income, because then unrealistic expectations and your stretch of finances, it just creates for a bad relationship with industry.
A lot of friction.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of artists get very jaded.
100%.
And
myself included.
Yeah. Because again, too, no one tells us, anyone, this stuff.
Yeah.
I also do want to say that it's not always about there are some artists that will be signed, whatever, through I love your music and I want to support you, but usually then they get put through this giant machine. Thank you.
Is that the word you're looking for?
I was this giant thing, and we would still make it clear to those artists that you're probably not going to get, very likely not going to get what you're expecting from that relationship if you are not putting in 100% of the effort on your end as well.
Everything comes back down to managing expectations, right? I think that can be a really good final point to what we're talking about here. I posted a TikTok on Cartel, it would have been late last year, that kind of got a lot of feedback. If anybody wants to laugh, go look at our TikTok comments. They're hilarious. But the whole kind of premise of that TikTok was your next single is not going to blow up.
Very likely.
Right.
Yes.
And the focus should not be on the merit of the single itself. It's the merit of the process of how that single gets to an audience that is likely to care.
Totally.
That then in turn generates demand, that then in turn generates industry support.
Totally. I think also I fully agree. And I think following that point, it is a very dangerous, very arrogant, and very naive way of thinking if you're at all thinking I'm going to blow up. I think that sentence is so dangerous for artists in general, because it takes away the work ethic. It makes it very luck based. It makes it very there's no process based. Even the artists who have quote unquote blown up, a lot of the time in this landscape have been meticulously developed by people who know how to do that.
And you know, for an artist at an independent level, I mean, define success.
Totally.
You know,
it could be different from everyone.
Success may just mean put your music out and get 1,000 listens and be happy.
Or it might mean that you're creating financial stability, but your name is not on a billboard with shining lights.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone can get to that level.
And if it was the same for everyone, again, like we said multiple times, there'd be a unique course for it.
Yeah. And also everyone would be Rihanna or everyone would have the level of fame.
100%.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good kind of point to leave it on.
Totally.
You know, obviously a lot of the stuff that we covered today was areas that we are very passionate in, or that we deal with kind of frequently with artists, or that I've dealt with as an artist and you as my manager back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main kind of takeaway from this is that, you know, the priorities between industry and artists are always going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically within an artist project, everyone's working towards a similar goal, but that goal may be a little bit kind of different at the pointy end of the arrow.
Totally.
Based on based on, you know, the company or the artist's priorities.
Yeah.
And I think working with artists based on an industry standpoint, you know, it's very much about, you know,
creating yourself in the most professional, most
correct.
Like friendly, I want to say, like not even friendly, like very, I don't know, as I don't want to say easy, as like friendly that you can. Yeah. What's another word for that?
You got to like who you work with. But no, exactly what I was saying. I think that, you know, the music industry has always been and will always continue to be about relationships. You know, who you work with,
and
the relationship you develop and nurturing. And if that starts from a professional place, that is always better than getting a DM saying, yo, manage me.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't do that.
Because I will tell you right now, we're not going to manage you.
Well, we're not management anyway. So do your research and work hard, ladies and gents, and everyone in between. So as always, guys, like, follow and subscribe, all the pluggy stuff. Yep. If any of you guys have any questions or any follow-ups following this episode of Record Straight, please send us a DM at Cartel Australia or shoot us an email at info@cartelmanagementaus.com. We are always open to talk to any developing independent local artists, or on the other end of the spectrum, any independent major kind of companies. We are open to everybody. We have services that kind of offer to everybody. This feels really pluggy and I don't mean to be doing that. No, we love it. But we look forward to continue to develop this podcast and to develop our relationships with the artists, because at the end of the day, we're fans and we love music. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next time. Catch ya.